Every wheel wall at Walmart is running a trick on you. Call it the name tax. The same wheel, cast in the same plant, by the same company, can cost 50% more the second a cooler name gets stamped on the center cap. You've felt this before, maybe not in words, just in your gut, standing there wondering why one wheel costs so much more than the one right next to it. Maybe you almost bought the expensive set last month, stood there, put it back, grabbed the cheaper one instead, and felt a little guilty about it, like you'd settled for less. You didn't settle for anything. Here's the truth. That's not because you don't know wheels. It's because you know the name your friends would nod at, and one company built its whole business on that trust. You paid for a name, not for metal. No company paid to be on this list, and no brand paid to get left off it either. Every fact here comes straight from public records and each company's own history page. You can check every single one yourself. Picture the guy standing right ahead of you at the wheel counter right now. He's pointing at the flashy set on the wall. He always does. He's about to pay way more for something built by the exact same company as the plain-looking set sitting 3 feet to his left. He just doesn't know it yet. Today, I'm counting down 7 wheel brands hiding in plain sight at your Walmart. Every single one is either built by, or now owned by, one giant company most drivers have never heard of. You've probably walked past every name on this list. This isn't a hate video on any one brand. Some of these wheels are genuinely great. The point isn't that you got tricked into buying junk. The point is you paid extra for a story you didn't even know was fake, and that's worth knowing before your next purchase, not after. Stick around for number 1. A wheel with a name straight out of a 1950s hot rod garage, the wheel some call the one that started the whole custom wheel business. Today it's quietly owned by the same company behind some of the wildest car videos on the internet. Before we start, drop a comment with the last wheel brand you bought. By the end of this list, you'll know exactly who really made it. Number 7 sounds like a name a company made up in a boardroom, because it was. Helo. Helo isn't really a wheel company, not in the way you'd think. It's 4 letters a bigger company picked to fill an empty slot on the shelf. A company called Wheel Pros made Helo from scratch in the early 2000s. Not bought, not inherited, built on purpose to sit on shelves next to bigger names and look just as sharp. Wheel Pros builds and owns dozens of wheel brands you've probably seen without knowing it. Helo was one of the first brands the company built entirely in-house, just to fill out its own lineup. At Walmart, Helo usually runs well below the pricier sets in the same style and size. You're not paying for decades of racing history. You're paying for a clean, modern look at a lower price, and that's exactly what you get. So why does nobody know the name behind it? Simple. Wheel Pros doesn't put its own company name on the box anywhere you'd notice. It puts the brand name on the box and keeps the company running the show in the background. That makes Helo feel like a small outside brand. It isn't. It's a house brand from one of the biggest wheel companies on earth. Here's the fair catch. Because Helo was built to be a starter brand, it doesn't carry the deep style history that older brands have. If you want to look with a real backstory, this isn't it. If you just want a clean, sharp wheel at a fair price, it does exactly that. Think about that trade for a second. A brand new company can build a great-looking wheel in a year. It takes decades to build a story behind one. Helo skipped straight to the wheel and skipped the story, and the price tag shows it. That's not a knock on the wheel itself, it's just honesty about what you're actually paying for when a name feels brand new. Nobody made Helo famous. A company built it to be useful, put it on a shelf, and let the price do the talking instead of a legend. The next one was built for people who don't play by the rules, and it's owned by the same company as half this list. Number 6. Moto Metal. Moto Metal wants you to think it grew up in a garage full of lifted trucks and loud exhaust. It didn't. It grew up in a spreadsheet. Wheel Pros built Moto Metal in 2002. Same company as Helo, just aimed at a louder, rougher crowd, truck and off-road drivers who want a wheel that looks like it's ready for a fight. It wasn't bought from some tiny garage shop. It was built from day one to fill a specific slot on the shelf, the same way a store-brand cereal gets built to sit right next to the famous box. Moto Metal usually sits in the middle of the price range at Walmart. Below the classic names, above the pure starter brands. You're paying for a bold, tough look, built by a company with the size and testing to back it up. It gets ignored, because most buyers think a name this loud must come from some small outsider brand chasing a trend. It's the opposite. It comes from the same giant company, quietly running a huge slice of the wheel row you're standing in. Fair catch. Moto Metal leans hard into off-road and truck styling. If you want something clean and understated for a sedan, this brand was never built with you in mind. Stay in its lane, and it does exactly what it's built to do. The next name is the tough guy cousin of a wheel brand most truck owners already trust, and they're both owned by the exact same company. Number 5. XD Series. XD Series is what happens when one company wants two totally different kinds of buyers to feel like they found two totally different companies. XD Series started in 2003 as the off-road focused line under KMC Wheels, and KMC belongs to Wheel Pros too. Same testing floor. Same design team pulling double duty. Different names stamped on the box for a different kind of buyer. Here's the proof this isn't just a knockoff. XD has earned real respect from truck and Jeep drivers who put these wheels through actual mud, rocks, and trail runs, not just showroom floors. A brand doesn't survive over 20 years of hard off-road use by being weak. Trail damage shows up fast, and word travels even faster in that community. XD Series usually costs less than the classic street-style names in this same lineup, while giving you the same build quality under a rougher, tougher look. You're paying for the finish and the attitude, not a different factory. It gets ignored because most shoppers assume XD is its own small off-road company. It's actually one arm of a giant wheel maker, wearing off-road paint and a tougher name. Fair catch. XD Series leans heavily toward trucks, Jeeps, and SUVs. If you're shopping for a small car or sedan, most of this lineup simply won't fit your world. Check the fitment closely before you fall for the look. The next brand has been building wheels since before most of our parents could drive, and it still gets swallowed inside a name most people have never heard. Number 4. KMC Wheels. KMC actually earned its name before anyone bought it out. That's what makes this one sting a little. KMC started in 1982 as its own company, building a real name in street and off-road wheels for decades. Then Wheel Pros bought it, folding KMC's factories and its whole design team into the same giant company that also owns Helo, Moto Metal, and XD Series. That's the real story here. 4 different names on this list. One company cashing every single check. Helo, Moto Metal, XD Series, and now KMC, all sitting under one roof while looking like 4 totally separate companies fighting for your money. KMC usually prices in the middle of the pack, carrying more design history than the newer in-house brands, while still costing less than some of the older classic names on this list. You're paying for over 40 years of actual wheel building experience, wrapped inside a company most shoppers have never once heard of. It gets ignored because the KMC name never got the marketing budget the classic brands got. Most shoppers see it, like it, and never once ask who's actually behind it. Fair catch. Because KMC now sits inside such a large company, exact factory locations can shift between styles and years. If you care about where a specific wheel is built, check the box before you buy, not just the name on it. Quick pause before the top 3, because the pattern is about to get a lot more obvious, and I want to save you a phone call. I actually called my local Walmart wheel counter while writing this and asked who really owns KMC. The guy on the phone thought I meant the drink brand. That's exactly what this video is for. Every brand so far traces back to one giant company you've never heard of. You just never connected the dots. If that's doing something for you right now, hit subscribe. It costs nothing, and the next 3 names aren't small deals. They're some of the biggest moves in wheel industry history, and the last one might change how you see every wheel wall you walk past for the rest of your life. The next name comes from a real family business that got swallowed by the same giant company, eating up half this list. Number 3. Fuel Off-Road. Fuel Off-Road started under a company called MHT, built by a family in the wheel business since the 1980s. In 2019, Wheel Pros bought the whole company, adding Fuel Off-Road to the same pile as Helo, Moto Metal, XD Series, and KMC. 5 brands, 1 owner. Fuel built its name on big, tough truck and off-road looks, the kind you see on lifted trucks at car meets. That name didn't come from Wheel Pros. It came before the buyout, from a small family company that built something people actually wanted. 1 show, 1 truck meet, 1 loyal customer at a time. Fuel usually prices toward the higher end of this list, closer to the classic names than the in-house starter brands, because it earned a real following before it ever got bought. It gets ignored not because it's small, it's the opposite. Most buyers know the Fuel name well, They just have no idea it sits inside the exact same company as 4 other brands on this list, all fighting for the same shelf space at the same store. Fair catch. Fuel's most popular styles run in bigger, heavier sizes built for trucks and SUVs. If you're shopping for a small car, most of this lineup won't even bolt up to your vehicle. Double check your fitment first. The next name has been slapped on hot rods since before your grandparents were driving, and it's now owned by a company that also makes tires. Number 2. Cragar. Cragar started in 1930, selling airplane parts before it ever touched a wheel. The Great Depression nearly killed the company before it built a single rim. In 1955, a young mechanic named Roy Richter bought the company and turned it toward cars. In 1964, Cragar released the SS wheel, the 5-spoke chrome design that became one of the most copied wheels in American history. Today, Cragar is owned by a large company called the Carlstar Group, which also makes tires under other names, not Wheel Pros. A completely different giant, sitting quietly behind one of the most famous wheel names ever made. Cragar usually prices in the middle of this list, selling the classic SS look alongside a handful of newer styles. It still carries almost 100 years of history most shoppers never think about while they're picking a style off a rack. It gets ignored for a strange reason. Everyone already knows the name, from old muscle car magazines to modern hot rod shows. Almost nobody knows the company behind it changed hands more than once, and the current owner has nothing to do with the mechanic who made it famous. Fair catch. Because Cragar has passed through several owners, older classic styles and newer ones aren't always built the exact same way. If you're chasing the true vintage look, compare specs closely instead of trusting the name alone. And number 1 is the wheel some call the one that started this whole industry, now owned by the same company behind some of the wildest car videos ever made. Number 1. American Racing. Ask anyone serious about wheels where this whole industry actually began, and most of them will say the same word: torque thrust. That wheel came from American Racing, started in 1956 in San Francisco by a drag racer named Romeo Palomides. In 1959, the company introduced the torque thrust, a 5-spoke wheel so iconic that some historians credit it with kicking off the entire custom wheel business. It's still in production today, on trucks and cars that weren't even a dream when it launched. In 2005, a company called Platinum Equity bought American Racing. In 2008, it merged with Wheel Pros, the same giant company behind Helo, Moto Metal, XD Series, KMC, and Fuel Off-Road. That's 6 brands under one roof, and American Racing is the crown jewel. Here's the part that should actually surprise you. In 2023, the company running the show quietly changed its own name. Companies do that all the time, usually for boring reasons nobody bothers to notice. This one didn't pick a boring name. It picked Hoonigan, the same name behind the viral Ken Block driving videos millions of people grew up watching online, the tire smoke, the donuts, the crazy backward slides through parking garages. So the company quietly running your local wheel wall is the same company behind some of the wildest car content on the internet. American Racing usually prices at the top of this list, still trading on decades of real racing history that no in-house brand can fake overnight. It gets ignored for the simplest reason on this whole list. The name itself sounds too plain to matter. It doesn't sound like a media company. It definitely doesn't sound like it shares an owner with viral drift videos. That gap between the name and the truth is worth more to a smart shopper than any logo on a pricier wheel ever could be. Fair catch. Because American Racing now sits inside such a massive company, some classic styles have shifted in size and finish options over the years. Match the exact style number to your car, not just the name on the box. Before you head to Walmart with any of this, here's the 5-minute check that actually protects you, in order. First, look up who really makes it, not just the brand name. A quick search of the wheel name plus the word owner tells you in seconds whether you're looking at a Wheel Pros brand, a Carlstar brand, or something else entirely. Second, check the exact fitment, not just the look. A wheel that looks perfect but doesn't match your bolt pattern and size is useless. Match the numbers before you fall for the style. Third, check the finish and material, not just the price. Cheaper wheels often use a thinner coating that scratches or fades faster. Ask what the finish is actually made of before you buy. Fourth, read reviews on the exact style, not the brand's overall name. A big brand can build one great wheel and one weak one in the same lineup. The brand name alone won't tell you which one you're looking at. Fifth, Ask the counter worker which of their in-stock brands they'd put on their own truck. Counter workers see returns and complaints all day, every day. That answer is usually more honest than anything printed on a display sign. Every brand on this list survives that checklist easily. A bad deal usually falls apart under at least one of those 5 questions. Now you know exactly what to ask. A few more worth a quick mention before we wrap this up. Vision Wheel, a smaller company that stayed mostly on its own while everyone else got bought out. Ultra Wheel, a budget-friendly brand that's quietly stuck around for decades. Motegi Racing, another Wheel Pros in-house brand built for import and tuner cars. None of them quite made the top 7. All of them beat their price tag the same way the rest of this list does. So here's the whole lesson in one paragraph, because you've earned the short version by now. Almost every wheel on that Walmart wall traces back to one of 2 or 3 giant companies, each one wearing a different name depending on how much they want to charge you for the exact same build. The expensive name isn't buying you a better wheel nearly as often as it's buying you the story stamped on the box. And sometimes, like with Cragar and American Racing, that story is even true. It just belongs to a company you'd never guess owns it. That doesn't mean the expensive wheel is always the wrong call. Sometimes the classic name really is built differently, a deeper history, a stronger following, a price to match. But now you know how to actually check that, instead of just trusting the logo to tell you the truth for you. Because the wheel does not know what name is printed on its center cap. It just knows how it was built, who built it, and what it's rated to handle. And now, so do you. 7 brands. 2 or 3 companies most of us have never even heard of. One trick that only works as long as nobody looks past the center cap. Remember the guy standing ahead of you at the wheel counter, reaching for the flashy set out of habit? Next time that's you standing there, you'll check the maker first, and you'll probably walk out with a wheel just as good for a lot less money. So tell me, which one of these 7 did you already own without knowing who really built it? Drop it in the comments. I want to know how many of you have been rolling on a Wheel Pros brand this whole time without ever seeing the name. And next time, the 4-wheel finishes that look identical in photos but fail in completely different ways once they hit real roads. Because the ownership chart is only half the story.